podcast listeners, if you hear my voice right now, I need you to do something for me. I want you to take out your phone or on your computer, go to Apple Podcasts, search for Ask Your Oldhead podcast. You'll see my logo, my little picture, my little image there. Find the show. Please rate and write a review. It's a small thing, but it helps others find this work and find what I'm doing here. And it really, really matters, as small as that may seem. So if you can please do that before we get into the show, I would much appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Let's get into it. Peace. Peace. I'm Majestic.
My brother, Justice Rajee.
All right. So we are here live and direct on the interwebs, making
interwebs.
You know what I'm saying? Making it's a series of connecting tubes and lines or whatever. However, you had brought up something we was adding on, and I thought we both agreed it would be something maybe good to talk about today. And we are in an interesting moment in America with our current federal regime, with way arts, culture, entertainment, social communication is all intersecting at this time. And you brought up like the I'm just gonna call it for sake of our conversation, like the case of Jay-Z, right? And some others, but like some of the roles specifically that he's been playing, it showed up in terms of his role with the Super Bowl halftime show, and I think in the larger conversation, even maybe poignant at the moment with was it last week, the Target boycott being over, maybe not being over, but not being over, being over, but somebody said it was over, but somebody else said nah, it ain't over. And right, so like we're not really gonna talk about that specifically, but
you definitely need one. You need one. Everybody needs to get on one kind of like line to talk about stuff on the internet. What's this shit called? The chat, like
like an old school, like a party line, like
yeah, like they need to get like a party line, man. They need like a civil rights party line to figure out if we issue is an issue ain't. Because this whole Target boycott, I mean, I don't want to kind of go too far off, but I think it's a great example of we know something needs to happen. And when something happens, because people want action so much, people are like, well, I'm glad it happened. But then we're not quite clear what's happening, why it's happening, and who's making it happen. So then when it ends or doesn't end, we don't know if it's okay or not. Because like we don't know if the people who said that they should end it had the power to end it. Because we don't know who started the shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's not to knock anyone who's doing that work. I want to be very intentional about that.
Absolutely.
But I want to say, like, this is where, like, organizing, you got to have a clear chain of command. We're not the Zapatistas. Like, there is a space where you have a diffuse chain of command and everything's working themselves. And this ain't it. Like, that's not what you use for Target.
Yeah. And I and where I thought the crossover of, sort of the notion you hit me with Jay-Z was that, we're in this space where sort of due to the nature of social media and communicate, and sort of the communication style around like who you are or who you are not and your values becomes sometimes a series of litmus tests or a bunch of different, like, is this person cool? Are they like down with the opposition, or are they with are they with the system? Are they against the system? I'm counterculture. Are you? And it in some ways it becomes like Jay-Z presents this interesting circumstance, right? And you had manifested some ideas, so I'm gonna like bump to you, and then like we could get into it a little bit, because I think it is I think it's a good conversation that we need. So like,
and I want to start. Not that anyone thinks that listens to us and supports us know that this is like a wholesale support of everything Jay-Z does. Because guess what? Newsflash. I don't do that for my damn self. So how am I doing for somebody else? I don't always like decisions I make. So the idea that I'm gonna like to see another person makes and not question it is crazy.
Right.
So now we got that out of the way. No, so okay, so here's where the origin story of this came from. I was listening actually, pardon me, to Acquired. And I think folks have heard us talk about Acquired before. And it's one of my favorite podcasts. If for no other reason, level of depth that they go into when they look at a subject. Like they leave very few stones unturned about a subject. And when you're talking about like how American or global businesses are built and the ways they're built and who influences them, it's really interesting to understand kind of the process. And you could actually easily take that to looking at movements and things like that. But they're very thorough for folks who have interest in things as varied as Microsoft, Trader Joe's. I just finished listening to the Trader Joe's one, which is fascinating. But anyway, listen to the NFL one. And they were basically talking about how like the NFL is the only thing in America that's actually more powerful or as powerful as government. And they were looking at like the current president, and like the current president messes with everybody in the world. Like everybody. I mean, we just seen stuff today. That's just crazy. Like every day is a level of craziness. I mean, I'm dating it, but the conversation about Pearl Harbor, which was absolutely something that no one ever in the world should ever do, and he did it. And like just, and it was like a television. It was like Parks and Rec. Like the Japanese prime minister just like eyes got big and parsed her lips. Like this thing is crazy. Like you know, like to use the black parlance. So like to get the situation where the very nature of the Kennedy Center, like you're talking about arts and culture and intertwining, right? You rename the Kennedy Center, destroy it, and then think that's just going to be okay.
Right. Just like, yeah, I'm supposed to put my name on it because it's now the Trump.
Name on it. Right. So I'm looking at all these things in the world. And also it's really interesting to note when you get white folks who mad at other white folks, because you get stuff like, you know, we're just going to close it down for 2 years. Yeah, you're going to close it down because no one's coming here anymore.
Hey, anybody coming to the shows be?
The other white people are not happy about your brand of white, but they're not happy. Like, and they've decided they're not dealing with y'all, so you're going to close it for 2 years. But well, that's for another day. Yeah. So listening, and they got me to thinking, like, wow, the NFL is like literally the only thing that like even the current sitting president won't go against. And then it got me to thinking as you got close to, you know, to the Super Bowl about a little over a month ago, how, you know, you bring an artist who doesn't perform in English. The artist only performs in Spanish. Probably the largest artist in the world who only performs in one language that is spoken by fewer people. No, it's probably spoken by as many people as English, but in a sense of like using it as a trade language, not necessarily, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not that.
And like the power of one Bad Bunny, so we're gonna make sure we say his name, but like the power of Bad Bunny and the power of the NFL to be like, yeah, we're gonna have to do this. And Donald Trump, you know, we're not gonna like it, but we don't care.
Right. You're gonna be cool about that.
You're gonna be cool about it. And look, Donald Trump was cool about it. He just didn't go. His answer was, I just ain't going. Not shutting it down, not saying the Super Bowl, not saying Roger Goodell should be fired. None of the above. So it's peculiar, right?
Yeah.
And then you go ahead on part.
Well, I think it is that this has been, you know, especially if you put that with last year's Super Bowl show.
Exactly.
You go and you have, you know, which I think by most reasonable measures from an art and culture special perspective, possibly, and someone who maybe is a more adept art historian, you know, I welcome correction because that's how we all grow. But for something that is like considered the mainstream super duper, this is the thing everyone in America watches, everyone in the world, like the whole world is in broadcast this. It is our banner moment. you basically had 2 successive years of people that at least from a, both Americans. Just like some of y'all
That's
keep
right.
running with this acting like Bad Bunny's from another world or something. You know what I'm saying? Like he landed on from spaceship. It's from Puerto Rico, man. It's part of the, you know what I'm saying? They vote in our stuff. You there. It's all part of this. So
And
for the
just because
record.
they speak Spanish doesn't mean they're not.
Man, that's right. That's right. You know what I'm saying? There's a world we can say, why don't we speak more than one language consistently in this society? What's wrong with us? But anyway,
Oh,
I'll
that's a
say
whole
that for
nother.
later.
Yeah.
The you know, at a minimum, somebody was at a Super Bowl party like, oh man, turn the TV down. I don't know what these, fill in the whatever racial epithet.
Insert right epithet.
Insert word that out. Pop, you can't be saying that. you know, enough that you know what I'm saying, they had to failed sort of counter halftime show with Kid Rock or something, and like that. So this is happening, and that's connected to sort of the agreement that Jay-Z brokered around when he declared the I mean, I guess I don't know. He declared we have moved on. Social justice or whatever. It made the deal that basically I'm gonna run the shows. I don't know how long their agreement or contract is to do. I guess like Live Nation and Rock Nation or something.
No, it's just Rock Nation.
It's just Rock Nation. Just Rock Nation. It's not Live Nation. It's just Rock Nation. Okay. It's a thing. It's an interesting thing to do, right? Because it's not like they. I mean, I don't know who they would. I mean, I'm sure there's some country person that's really popular they could go with, right? That somebody we really into. They could go with some other. I mean, here I am displaying my lack of top 40 pop music knowledge at the moment because I don't listen to it. But I guess the name I hear, Sabrina Carpenter, she's fairly popular, whoever that is. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I know she has some politics that are not necessarily what the the mainstream is going for either. But the like the idea that a standing part of the Super Bowl decision making process is actively like, yeah, I am gonna do like wild different people that maybe some folks are not gonna be comfortable with, and I don't care what y'all feel about it. You know what I'm saying? We just gonna do this.
I mean, let's touch on it a little more. It's left to a guy who, after everything went on Colin Kaepernick, and again, not trying to, kind of go back to replay everything with that, but like Jay-Z comes in and says, you know what y'all aren't doing? Y'all aren't having us do it. And Roger Goodell says, okay, you're correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
That happens, and then they come out like, we're going to put on Dr. Dre and people, flying off of stuff, and 50 Cent coming on, flying in, and Snoop Dogg. And then they go, who else? Kendrick Lamar, who's wrapped in the biggest issue of the world with the biggest rapper of the world, and does what he does on stage, and everyone calls it a success. To the degree where you go get a guy who speaks only Spanish, probably biggest artist in the world, and then that happens, and the worst Donald Trump says is, I'm just not watching, and go get Kid Rock and some other third-rate folks. Yeah. But then the deeper thing is, that's cool, but this guy is a rapper, I guess, used to sell drugs, like officially sold drugs, officially was part of the underworld.
Mm-hmm.
And like, this person is now the person pushing the NFL's largest show, which is one of, if not the, other than probably the World Cup, largest television exhibition in the world. And so regardless of my take on a whole host of things with Jay-Z, I think there's something to be said about the role of, and I'm going to assert that at this point, Jay-Z has become an operator, right? Like, it has gone past artists, and he is now doing the thing that operators do. And I think when you think someone as an operator, I think the politic, or at least your framing on the politics, changed just a little bit, because it goes from this whole like, man, I don't think that really represented us, to this person is influencing institutions to act in some form of way. And we need to be very clear of the power of how him in his partnership, because it's not just Jay-Z, but him and his entire team and his wife and all of them are thinking about shifting what people see, how they see, and using alignment with global organizations like the NFL to execute it. So I just thought that was very peculiar, and something that people like us, we talk about power and how power works and who's got it and who's going to get it and who should have it. And at this point, you have to say this operator is acting in the manner, frankly, I would say beyond a Berry Gordy. I would say he's acting in the manner of a huge influence on him, and as far as a huge influence on so many others, of Clarence Avant. Like, he's actually doing the thing of what people talked about in The Black Godfather, where you sometimes could see someone's imprints and sometimes you couldn't see their imprints. But it was important to note it and to think about going forward, how does this impact how we kind of see pop culture and the influences and who moves pop culture? And then it is going to like, who actually makes the decision around how pop culture moves? And I'm saying it to say, I think it's a little more unilateral than sometimes we would like to think.
Yeah, it presents a interesting thought. So I was drawing this up when you brought this up to me and thinking about it the last couple of days. Because like in in most spaces, if we went outside and we got 15 random organizers, community persons, business that see themselves sort of in an effort to make a more just society, so to speak, from our community, they would probably mark Jay-Z down as he's down with the machine more so than us, right? Or at least machine adjacent. They definitely would not. Obviously, our more how you say Marxist, socialist brothers and sisters. They already out on him. But the tone would not be that any of his efforts or these efforts or this sort of presence is in service to moving us, in whatever action maybe that is more just or fair, at least not in an explicit way. And my own thing that I've especially over the last couple of years, we as I sometimes talk to the younger people, including young people that are my own children, about change is, we sometimes discuss societal direction as if it is one that it's by definition some sort of linear thing, we are coming from some innate past that was one way and going towards some future that's going to be another way if we just keep on working that way, right? And that sometimes the narratives one can pick up from how you would study, sometimes how you may have been in given the orientation to look at the civil rights movement or other social justice work, is this sort of lens of we are fighting for an inevitable or at least a possible end. And something I've tried to over the years, especially as my sense of work and service has evolved and developed, is avoiding is by inadvertently, if you started to become involved in a uh I'm going to suffer all my days here, but I'm going to get to go to somewhere beautiful when it's all over kind of narrative around how you approach, societal impact or social, the way things are happening, and not actually looking almost in some ways to actually have power to influence what's happening right now. You know what I'm saying? And and there is a sense with, and I would say to his credit as an artist, he's kind of been transparent that, like, if if he could have made money rapping, doing more music about like social consciousness, he would have. But he didn't. Now that might be a debatable, reality, but let's just say we take a person's word on its face. But also it makes me think about, again, where we sometimes, when we can convince ourselves that our sense of wanting to do something that maybe socially changes the world to a more positive place is only driven by the most altruistic part of our personage, and not sometimes driven by wanting to be the person in the driver's seat, or wanting to have power and influence, or by wanting to have control of things, right? So we can convince ourselves that no, I'm not like those other people. I don't want to be the one that talks at the meetings because I like hearing myself talk. I want to be the one that talks at the meeting because that's the only way we're gonna get free if I do the talking, right? And it's like, look out now, You gotta watch it. You'll be look close, right? And so say that to say, it's like I've as I've ripened into my the second half of my, as I like to call it, of my life of impact, I have felt less obliged to like have a super strong opinion about whether something that's happening in the moment is like super right or super wrong or whatever. Because I don't really know who who does that actually serve. So on his face, get having they had Snoop, and then what, 50 Cent upside down in that video.
Yeah, that was the joint. He was hanging upside down.
That did like he did for the video, like you put those three things together, like, yeah, that is kind of wild that you've had you've had one of the most improbable mainstream cultural icons in Snoop Dogg, which, given where he started and what his subject matter was, sort of like interesting. This is the person that you've all said, we love this guy. And not that Snoop Dogg is not a person of the charisma and the stature and the nature of a human being to be loved. It's just, if you would have told somebody in 1992, you know what I mean, when they was pouring beer on the sister in the What's the Name video, that, by the time I was in my 40s, that he would be hosting the Olympics and hanging out with Martha Stewart and just be this sort of beloved American figure. I just don't think no one would have believed you. Bob Dole, I don't know, I think he passed away. He's rolling over in his grave somewhere, if you go for that sort of thing. And whoever else there was that would have been in that ilk of that time in terms of the moral decay and all that sort of talk. Other side of it is, again, what is our job in terms of delivering some level of outcomes and things happening when we endeavor to push back against structural systems? Right. And like, because sometimes it can be like, well, we don't really got to get no wins. We just got to keep fighting. And I'm like, I don't know if that's an accurate assessment.
Well, that's part of the industrial complex of just fighting.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Like, the people that make a life out of just fighting and not trying to actually gain material benefits for people so that they see the process in the horizon of what's happening. Mm-hmm. Right. And in other parlance, you would say hustling backwards, and I'm going to say you're organizing backwards. If people don't get to see substantive things that matter to them, as well as things they would say have changed society, people lose confidence. And they're not incentivized to do the next thing you ask them to do, because they don't think the thing they did before was actually impactful. And we could like that or not like that. That's actually not part of this conversation. That's human nature. Like, and so if the thing is, here doesn't have to be my change, but does it do something that influences the space? It's very similar. Obviously now, we have so much to say about so many people who have done so many things, right? I'm leaving Cesar Chavez out of it. I'm just going to actually go to, because that's deep. But I'm going to just go to
super deep.
I'm going to go to Bill Cosby. In the sense that, again, Bill Cosby did things that changed millions of people's lives and changed millions of other people's lives that they saw for the first time that, guess what? Black people actually have colleges that they all go to. And guess what? You don't know about them. And they actually get educations and they laugh and do shit. Like you have humanized people. Right? We had already seen shows about the mother that lost her husband and struggling bad. And how many more times? And I like Good Times, and I like What's Happening, and I like That's My Mama. I like all of them. But how many more times do we need to see that story?
Right.
Versus a doctor and a lawyer, or versus black folks going off to college, which hundreds of thousands and millions of black people have been doing.
Right.
And so, but I'm using this point about like, I can think Bill Cosby was a reprehensible human being who laid around in robes and did that face and did all kind of crazy stuff. Right? Like I can think that and still see the power of a different world. And see the power of the Cosby Show and how that started to shift perceptions and roles around material impacts. And some people who had never seen anyone go to college saw it on television for their first time. And so I just bring this to bear about the relationship between like what I'm going to call the concurrent things about who plays roles in shifting some forms of material conditions. You can also extend this to politics, right? And I think about it often like speedboats and tankers. I heard someone told me this a long time ago, and I've never forgotten it. Like, you can turn a speedboat around on a dime, but speedboats only have but so much stuff in them. So it moves fast, and it can impact and change. A tanker needs a lot of time to move around, and it doesn't move that often. But once it goes in a different direction, you have fundamentally shifted the direction of everything around it, as well as the goods on the tanker. So you have to think about, are you rolling a speedboat or a tanker? And so many of us have been in speedboats before, and we've endeavored to change. We've endeavored to move the direction of tankers. Right? We've decided we wanted to do, and it's not better or worse. And that's an important part of these conversations. It's not better if you're doing something big than small. It's just your role. But the subversive nature of that impact of Rock Nation as an organization, who was cool with Roger Goodell, who has been shielded from Donald Trump's most vicious impacts, is something to note.
Yeah.
And it also kind of came back in the sense that, like, and I'll share another group that has their own relationship with people, the Roots, right? And so, if you've been listening long enough, you'll figure out that I'm from Philadelphia, and from Philadelphia during the time that the Roots were your underground heroes. They were the people that it was like a password. If you really were cool, you would say, but do you know about the Roots? Did you see them on South Street? Right? Like, or do you have Organics? That was the other one, their first album for those. Like, do you have Organics? If you had Organics, then you was like, cool. Or you saw them rapping on 11th Street, 11th Market. And now they do one of the biggest actual festivals in the country, urban festivals in the country now.
It takes place in the city of Philadelphia, not in an amphitheater
in the city of Philadelphia,
outside, or like, it's not someplace 30 miles outside of Philly, or
which they could do relatively easy. And probably be a lot easier than to bring the commerce and bring the hotel rooms and bring the eating to Philadelphia.
Yep.
And so last year, for those, it was muddy. It was bad. People didn't like
I heard it was rough. Heard it was rough time, rough sledding.
It was rough times. So there was this whole debate on how can they do that? Should they be doing this? Are they doing enough for Philadelphia? All the kind of things you normally hear. So when I saw they're doing Jay-Z, I was like, wow. Okay. And most importantly, they did it at a place called the Man Music Center. And they did it like kind of around 52nd and Parkside. Shout out to my man C's, thinking about 5'2".
Shout out.
Then they was like, we're going to do it. The Belmont Plateau, which, to go to a Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince song, place called the Plateau, where everybody go. right?
Exactly.
Platt. You know what I mean? And you know, I can always tell who came to Philadelphia too late when they start calling it BP. They believe now the minute people call it BP, it's bad. It's bad. It's
No,
bad.
don't
It's
do
bad.
that.
It's
What's
very
that?
bad. It's very bad.
Oh, I need that meme with the brother. No, like
No, it's very bad.
yeah, don't do that. Ugh.
We don't like that. It's not the
Yeah,
BP.
man, it's not
But
cool,
like,
bro.
so for them to say, guess who we got this year, y'all? On Belmont Plateau, Jay-Z. And it's like, oh shit. Okay, damn. This was a thing. Right? And then
Right.
so let's leave that there and them trying to figure that out and doing that in the 250th anniversary of Philadelphia, and then being seen as kind of the kind of really the biggest supporters and the representatives of the 250 celebration in the summertime, which again is huge.
Mm.
Then next
right, it's not like not. I'm trying to. Is there somebody else from Philly in the last 20 years like that's not the Roots or yeah, there's nobody else.
No. I mean, again, from a festival, and like the guy who was the co-manager of the Roots is now the CEO of Live Nation, the CEO of Live Nation Urban. So just think about the scale of which they've been able, again, to create something from 20 some odd years ago, rapping on a street corner. So there is a scale of global influence that I think in the barbershop perspective of the internet gets lost. Because Black Thought is still, in my estimation, the best rapper living on the planet. Like,
Yeah,
he still raps well the way he rapped well, longer than all the other guys who also rap well. For marketing and selling it. I mean, there's a debate you could talk about. Redman, like I'm 100% with that conversation. It's a part of Nas conversation, but I'm just saying who still sells the shit. So, and then earlier this year, Jay-Z did another peculiar thing. They re-released Dead Presidents, the original version. Yeah, they re-released Dead Presidents. They're not Dead Presidents 2. That's always on the Reasonable Doubt album, but the original Dead Presidents on DSPs. Which up until then was not on though.
Yeah.
Didn't even put that little weird, I don't want to sound uneducated, but that little thing above his name, the treble, or the little two dots when he had Jay-Z, and he had little two dots.
The umlaut. They had the umlaut on there or something.
These. So I do a podcast with him,
you know what I'm saying? So
but like
work together.
He put that back in his name. So it's clear something was happening.
Yeah. It's interesting.
And then he identifies he's going to do a 25th and 30th anniversary concert for Reasonable Doubt and Blueprint.
You know, so those are good choices if he was going to do a concert or something. You know, probably
the
strongest records. You know what I'm saying?
Like, shit's genius. And they're only 5 years apart. It starts to frame hip-hop like other musical forms. Like his two best albums were essentially, but it was like his first and fourth, right? Because there was Volume 1, there was Reasonable Doubt, Volume 1, Volume 2, and then The Dynasty.
Yeah.
Then Blueprint. So Homie did 3 albums in between those 5 years, which also, from a musical perspective, that level of output then. Now it's, you know, you got rappers who are dropping 5 albums in a year.
Yeah. Gucci Mane got so many records, I can't even try to listen to them all. And shout out to Mac Dre. Mac Dre had 27 records the first time I got to Oakland. I was like,
oh, absolutely.
How you make this many records?
Listen, Ronald Reagan reserves it all. Listen, because you're right. You listen to Mac Dre and wait, this album came out in 1999, and so did this one. And this one came out in 04, and this one came out in 05.
I went in Amoeba and looked at the stack. It was 20-something records, different CDs. I'm like, how you do this many CDs? It's only 2,000. Like 2,000. Like it just. This is amazing. We was fighting to get a tape out. We was fighting the laws of physics just to get a tape and an EP out. Anywho,
shout out to Dre. Shout out to him. Shout out to Mac Dre,
but
though.
absolutely.
But yeah, so I wanted to share that in the context of, again, what happens when you're moving large institutions. And I think we can sometimes grow insensitive to the power of moving large institutions and lionize the tanker, which, I mean, the speedboat, and the speedboat should be honored and deeply respected. Absolutely. But there's something also to be said for trying to move tankers.
Yeah. And if I can extend the metaphor, right? Like in our lives, and we've said it on this in our conversations here. But there's sometimes where you can think to yourself, like, the scale of my ambition, and like it's like I'm gonna get like a good speedboat of a life, right? I'm gonna be out here, or maybe a light pleasure cruiser. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's a little bigger than speedboat, but still, it's not a tanker. Right. But it's not a tanker. It's not a obnoxious mega yacht of a life, right? Where it needs a crew for it to move around, and it needs some other things to be committed to it, and I think where it becomes significant and crosses a stream is do we make adjustments in our expectations and own ambitions? Sometimes some of us, especially if we're in a mindset of service, and again, not wanting to abandon the revolutionary struggle, that if you go too deep into this side of the stream, then you have to be too enmeshed in the system, right? Or that you're some way more valorous, more valorous is the right word, more righteous. If you do not ambition to have I want to run a operation that whatever it is you do in life. You know what I'm saying? You have a construction company, or you're an artist, or you're an accountant. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you do, that is it? Yeah, I want to be an accountant in one of the top 100 size accountant firms in the United States, or is it like I just want to find a good accountant role where I can and neither one of these things are necessarily bad, right? Like if you're like, I've run a great business, I have some beautiful clients, and I'm able to do service. I go on. I got some money socked away. You know what I'm saying? My T-bills, what they say in the movies back in the 80s, like my T-bills or something, it's collecting something. Interest is rolling. I'm able to be an asset in my community. Beautiful. Also, it is okay to be like, I want to run something that if in my city, if they want to do some work related to that industry or that area of expertise, I'm the person that everybody's coming to, and I'm in a big city. You know what I'm saying? I'm not maybe a big fish in a small pond type time or whatever. Like just the sense of thinking about ambition, because I think there's a structural discomfort sometimes for folks who may be like-minded to us, or at least a wariness about your ambitions, and then you may end up being like, damn, am I over here signing off? Basically, I'm letting the idiots run the world out of a in my view a service to being a better person. Am I leaving? Am I should I be taking up more space? Should I be and then it gets to my second thing about if the individuality aspect, again, in someone like Jay-Z, who again his whole aesthetic musically is sort of like I'm the coolest. I'm cooler than the next person next to me, dude. You know what I'm saying? And I wear my sneakers better than you wear your sneakers. You know what I'm saying? Which again, I'm not a person who's necessarily offended by that, because I wear my sneakers better than Jay-Z wear his sneakers. I said it. I'm saying, Jay-Z, you got a problem with it? You know what I'm saying? You know where to find me. You know what I mean? What's up with it?
He would have a problem because he knows that's the nature of the game.
Right. He would respect it because he expect me to like myself as much as I like, more than I like the next man. You know what I'm saying? Anywho, and so these sort of ethos, it like raises the question again, like if you have a discomfort with how he's, again, trying to have what he would see as an impact on the world, that I imagine he may be as positive, that, you may be invested in seeing it as negative or otherwise. And my thinking is, I don't know how much trying to determine on a macro level, especially somebody you don't spend no time with, whether it is a positive when, there's a whole bevy of other circumstances that are impacting the day-to-day life outcomes. And again, asking the question, where am I moving through the world? What is my uh where's my sort of direction or construct, or so to speak, around what I want to get done. um what I what I want to enjoy, where I want to show up, how I want to be understood in the world. And it raises an interesting question. It raises an interesting thought that I appreciate that if that band endeavors to get that tanker going. You know what I mean? And the Roots, I think it predicts a different thing. Because again, if you would told me after I listened to Concerto de Desperado, you know what I'm saying, it was like, man, again, like when you hit the turn of the century, the turn of the quarter or whatever, quarter way through the next through the 2000s, they're going to be basically a sort of a mainstream American reality, and like
on TV,
5 days a week. And not just for you. Like they're gonna be there like for other people. And they're gonna be, oh, they had the Roots. Look, it's Quest Up. Look at his hair. He's playing the drums again. Like that didn't seem like that was on the recipe. That wasn't on the menu.
Right.
And there's been rumblings in the structural criticisms for whatever it means on the internet of like them and their role in maybe, pushing other people out or limiting other people's opportunity or this or that.
And that's my point. Like at some point we have the conversation about how are the Roots. And again, this is not a wholesale acceptance of everything they've done.
Mm-mm.
I don't know enough to wholesale accept everything they've done, and wouldn't probably do it if I knew enough, if only because I still wouldn't have enough information.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people read case studies. Like it's hard to tell what you think about something when you don't have enough information. That's why we do the knowledge first. Right. So again, when things become institutions, right, and they do subvert what you saw on TV before. That's not to say we're not talking about Arsenio Hall, but it's to say what's happening today. The Roots are bringing artists to the table to perform who don't usually get on late night television.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing songs and stuff that don't usually find themselves on late night television. So they're using institutions to possibly impact the perspective of how the world sees things. That's why I went back to, the Cosby Show, his misgivings, notwithstanding, but just the other things that he did, because he got on major, television, mainstream television, and let off the most powerful night in television, talking about a black family in Brooklyn that wore HBCU sweaters and sweatshirts,
mm-hmm.
and then went to an HBCU. You couldn't even pull that off right now on TV.
Yeah, I can see someone trying to like make it like a they ain't take my pitch video, like help, but like basically we raise the money so we can bring whatever you to the television, and that because the mainstream don't want to see us this way, and like at this time right now, you know what I'm saying, especially right now, I guess they trying to cancel everything.
Right, like right now we would be having that conversation in a time that Ronald Reagan was calling black women welfare queens.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so again, I think we can, we talk about this a lot, just about what's the historical context of what we see. And I think at some point we will look at historical context of what we see with the Jay-Z and with his decision tree, in his organization's decision tree. I use this as the last one. Jay-Z and Beyonce have a party for the Oscars, and they don't act
at all.
It's like a fisherman having a party. The biggest fisherman in America having a party at the NBA finals. Like, that's cool. But what is going on that you have this, like, you were in a party that Oscar Award winners and folks are attending.
Right. Like they going to your party. It's not
it's a scale and a representation, right? That I think, and if you can get someone that's acting in a subversive sense, while at the same time engaging in broad institutions, it's a part of the overall material change. It doesn't replace reading. If you want them to read Fanon, or if you want them to read The Boys, or if you want them to read Bell Hooks or Audre Lorde, like none of what I'm saying replaces that.
Yeah.
But it does mean you see the material benefits in the changing of people and how they see themselves and how the world sees them, which was the power of when you would make it look like Black folks only was one way. That was also an impactful way that the world was able to see you. And when they only see you one way, like we've talked about, it's easier to kill you. Now enter the person that says they'll kill anyone, even if you got a suit on. That won't stop you from dying, brother. So I want to get that out there just for the person that would say that.
It's always
but we do know that perceptions matter. And it's a reason that people use propaganda to frame other people's humanity. And it is often to destroy them. As if someone is using subversive ways, and this goes beyond Black excellence. To me, this is the conversation between Black excellence and Black power. And again, I mean Black power in the context of Black influence of institutions. I'm not necessarily talking about the Amos Wilson. Definitely talking about the Amos Wilson definition.
Yeah.
I'm more talking, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
But moving from the sense of, hey, we're Black and we're great, and look, we all got dressed up, to we actually influence institutions. And I just think that's a part of the broader conversation.
That's joggled something. So I watched this week, and I would suggest folks to The Milk Goes On Forever. It's the Art and Times of David Hammons. And there's a piece in there, and I didn't realize that. I mean, I had it saved on here to watch it, so I finally got around to watching it. And some of his work, but there was a moment in there in the doc. First thing that's important is in the doc. He doesn't. They don't talk to him directly at any point in the doc, which is consistent with who he's been as he's been, with his impact in the world of art and his scale and everything. It's like, I ain't gonna be all up in you. I ain't gonna be up dancing in the video, so to speak, as it pertains to me being creative. There was video and like stuff from footage of him talking with people at different times, across the timeline, that it shares about the impact of his work and the scale. But it's something that he says in terms, again, about the awareness of where he shows up within the system that he was in. And I think it's important to, he's connected to the Watts Rebellion as it pertains to art. And also, like, for people that don't know, and the intentional thing of like these Black artists that started ascending to higher, economic realities, and also profoundly creative, like ill creations and pieces. And it, with something to think about, for you. But he says something about himself in one of the clips, and close to as I remember it, but basically like I know there's somewhat of a contradiction, like, in where I'm at in this world, but I've made a choice to be here, so I gotta go all the way. Like, I gotta keep going. You know what I mean? I have to push the thing. I can't back out now because I feel self-conscious, like in this, my interpretation of it, like I can't step back from it because I wanted to make this art. I wanted to show up in the world this way. I wanted to have to move people, and within that, he had, as I saw it, and I think was a consistent thing of the story, and at least in the narrative of the doc, was also staying true to your values, and then you make you cascade out the decisions to do the things, right? And the thought of, again, if your ambition was to be a top grossing, hip hop artist, and you achieved that, you got there, you effectively, and you may not have. Again, in life, there's always times, you had a good run, or you might have rode the wave of what was culturally happening. Anyway, but you made a move. You became, at least someone, at least in the world of music and entertainment, that we would go like, you're a high ranking outcome person in that reality. And then, but you had ambition. You did clothes. You wanted to do, you had a Def Jam. I know there's people that decry his operations of Def Jam, but however you feel about it, again, for his own arc, was to get to this place of being able to have some level of structural power and influence. And again, you are connected to an entity because, and I guess I wouldn't say because, but we understand that, I've adjusted my relationship to the NFL. I thought, we on some have with Kaepernick. Like I bowed out and did like I didn't even know the Eagles was in the Super Bowl till I got there, because I was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm not watching this year, and we'll see what happens. And but it is we are in this world. It is still something that matters to people, and because of where it sits in people's minds and in their hearts and how they feel about it, but then also the economic connections and the reality of who owns it, and all this web of the human reality. Even this dude who doesn't seem to have a real clear mission is just like, well, what can we do today to agitate? Well, let's do this. Let's do that. Is like, yeah, I'm gonna lead. I'm kind of leave them alone. You know what I'm saying? It is not worth the fight, right? It's something to think about. Again, like it's not, I'm not asking. I don't think anyone needs to like decide like, I feel better or feel whatever way you feel about a person. Go ahead and feel how you feel. I'm saying for the things that we strive to like think about in terms of power, impact, outcomes, influence, is this, how the world is changing or changes. Yeah, like what is there to be learned from looking at this? What is there to be understood? What is there here to go before you jump to, and especially for those of us who are assigned or really like the idea of sort of a command and control human existence, which I don't really think, I think at a population level, it has not been proven that that's consistently what's happening. Even if there may be, I think there's more riding the wave and someone catching the understanding of what's going on and then tapping into that at the moment when we as a mass of people are leaning towards or thinking a thing. But, yeah, that's neither here nor there. The like, what is it can you learn from what you're seeing? And then if this is an indicator of a way to achieve or to impact outcomes, what outcomes, is there anything that you could get moving looking at this? Is there anything that you can think about how you could be more successful in an endeavor by learning or drafting, some thoughts, some understanding from what's happening with that? And and also it was mad funny to see people like really upset that Bad Bunny was doing songs in Spanish when all the songs was in Spanish. I was like, I ain't heard a Bad Bunny song that wasn't in Spanish. So why would there suddenly be a song in Spanish and not in Spanish, y'all? What are y'all talking about? And but anyway, so little Rajee levity there before we pivot.
No, I would just say in closing, I think you took the perfectly. I'm just gonna say it. It's maybe a little not different, but with that thing. Does the scale of your ambition meet the scale of the moment? Yeah. Right. Like, and if the answer is no, that's okay. Just know someone's going to think that they want the scale of their ambition to meet the scale of the moment. And you might not like the person that makes that call, but someone's going to make the call. I mean, it's a through line of the Jesse Jackson conversation. You don't have to like it. He thought he was the person that should be there.
Mm-hmm.
In every city in America, there's a person who decides they think they should be mayor. They decide they think they should be county executive. And maybe it's no reason that they think they should do that. But guess what? They still did it.
Yep.
And at some point, you become a person talking about a person that did it. If the scale of your ambition, maybe support of someone doing it, didn't meet the scale of the moment. So to me, what I take from Jay-Z, by extension, the Roots and other things, is like, make the scale of your ambition equal to meet the scale of the moment, and acknowledging there are a variety of moments. There's not only one moment, right? There's a variety of moments, but the scale of your ambition should always be to either meet it or influence or empower it. So,
absolutely. So with that, I mean, I don't have much more to add on. I will go and look longingly at, can I go to a Roots picnic this year? As I do every year, and go, oh, I got this. Snaggletooth. my other life commitments are not really gonna let this happen for me.
Listen, can't wait to see all the great shots of how people came out and who came out on stage is gonna be a stone cold groove, baby, and they do it on the plat.
Yeah, but which is interesting. That is pretty wild that like they're gonna do it on the plat. Just the idea that they're just gonna put a concert up there on a, because pretty much just it's like the hill with some grass and
it's just a hill that looks over the city. Like it's it's not, like kind of like the Man Music Center, but okay, kind of but we'll see.
Yeah, activating. So with that, I'll say peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Good Brothers. Thank you to my good brother, I'm Majestic. Good Brothers is a part of the Ask Your Oldhead podcast feed, and you can listen to the audio when we post it right here. Please rate, subscribe, share, all the things. It's the best way you can support. The next best way is to, or maybe the better best way, is search me up, Justice Rajee, on Patreon and become a subscriber to my Patreon channel. And where it all goes down, where it all happens, here on the internet. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. As always, take the best part for yourself, and don't get too caught up. Stay sharp, take care of your people. All right, so with that, I'm gonna say peace.